This is a paint widget that you can use inside of Python notebooks to doodle. And although I made this in the beginning as part of a April Fool's joke, it's kind of become one of these tools that I don't want to be without. And the reason is LLMs. By being able to draw something live, you are also able to communicate with an LLM in a different way. LLMs these days are pretty multimodal, so you can send an image as part of your prompt or as the entire prompt itself. Now, the way that this widget works is you're able to draw something, and once you're done drawing, you can get that base64 representation of that image, and that can be part of a prompt. So what I would like to do in this video is just highlight a couple of interesting use cases that I've found for this, and in particular, I'm going to give Google Gemini a spin. So for this demo, I've made a pretty big Marimo notebook that has a couple of components to it. Over here, I've got my interface where I can draw, and you can see I've made a little drawing. And then down below over here, I can add a prompt that goes along with that drawing. The big picture idea is that this image, together with some prompt, describes a task that I'm interested in performing. Just for good measure, I also make sure that I show what the image actually looks like on the right-hand side over here, just so I can confirm that what I intend to send is actually the thing that I'm sending. And then there's also a button over here, and when I click this button, that's when actual requests are being made to the LLM. I'm doing one prompt on top over here that's just asking to describe the image. I figured this might be a nice little sanity check, just in case my doodle appears to be something that I didn't intend. And in this case, it's saying it's a simple drawing on top of a sunny landscape with a yellow sun and a green horizon. So, okay, the LLM seems to understand what I want. And I have a prompt over here that says, what can I do to make this image better? And if I were to scroll down now, then you can see that there are lots of comments on how I could be making this image better. I can even scroll around a bit, so to say. So, okay, that's a fun little demo, right? But what else might we be able to do here that's actually kind of useful? So one thing I figured I might try that actually turned out to work out of the box pretty well is what if I draw a little bit of math over here? Just a math formula. Then one thing I might be able to do is I might be able to ask it to parse the LaTeX out of this. And after hitting run over here, what do I get back? Well, the description of the image is that this is a mathematical expression, the integral from -infinity to infinity, 1 over x dx, so that's right. But the cool thing at the bottom over here, because I'm using Marimo's rendering mode for Markdown, you can actually see that it is able to pretty much perfectly give me the formula back that I gave it. So that's kind of interesting. Now, the system obviously isn't perfect. There are these moments when it will make a mistake. In this particular case, I drew a little bit of probability stuff. And when I look at the output now, and let me zoom in a bit here, then you can see that it mistook the greater than as a right arrow. It got most of the other things right though, so it's pretty good. But another thing that's also just kind of interesting here is that the prompt that asks Gemini to turn the image into LaTeX, that only took me 760 milliseconds or so. But the prompt that's actually asking for a proper description, that took a fair bit longer actually. So that was also just kind of interesting to know. If you want to turn this image into LaTeX, that's a pretty fast operation, all things considered. So again, to continue the train of thought, I figured, well, the next thing that might be fun is maybe I can draw something and then we can see if we can parse JSON out. So as an example, I figured I might draw a DAG, so lots of nodes and edges and things that connect to one another. And the prompt here is, hey, I drew a DAG. Parse the nodes and links out and return that to me in JSON representation, and also only return to me the JSON representation. I can confirm that the image that I drew matches what I intended, and as it turns out, it is able to just do this. I've got my nodes here, I've got my links, and there's a source and there's a target, and this whole thing was basically shot from zero. What you can do inside of Gemini is you are actually able to set the response modality in the code here. And then if you were to check the docs, you will also find that you're able to use Pydantic, and you can define your own Pydantic model, and that is something that you can pass along. And you're also able to say, hey, what I want to get back needs to be proper JSON. And I've not configured any of that. I've just said, give me text back. And it should perhaps be stressed that what I'm doing here is a relatively simple example, so we should definitely keep that in mind. But the fact that I was able to generate this JSON zero shot with only text being demanded from it, I thought was also pretty clever, interesting, and impressive. So I'll definitely keep on playing with this, but one thing I hope is that there is a little light bulb going off in your mind now that sort of thinks, hey, it's kind of interesting not just that we can add images to a prompt, but if we have widgets at our disposal that allow us to just nicely doodle, and perhaps especially if you have a drawing tablet like I do, then a small new world does open up. There are these moments when it's easier to doodle something than to explain what you want. And for those moments, maybe having a little widget that does a little bit of paint is all you need. If you're eager to give this a spin yourself, know that the notebook is in the show notes, And the widget that I'm using here is called Mo Paint. I will also add a link to the GitHub repository, as well as a Marimo notebook, so you can play around with that as well.